All right, back with Sean Lewis. Spring football about to begin here on the Mesa. The offseason obviously well underway. Can you take our viewers, Sean, and we always appreciate the time, kind of through the process that plays out from the end of the season to the beginning of the next?
Yeah, for sure. John, good to see you again.
Yeah.
And, we kind of alluded to it the last time that we were visiting, right? How our season begins, way back in January and going from January to January with all of it, right? So we break everything down into phases so that our guys can really, truly digest what it is that we're about to embark upon and what and why we're doing what we're doing is. So the very first phase that we always dive into is winter conditioning, right? And that's been top of mind for us ever since we've been back. And again, that goes to the connection to the people and pouring into those relationships, but then also making sure that, we're getting bigger, faster, stronger. That strength and conditioning role kind of takes priority when it comes to the physical work to make sure that we're adding good size, we're refining our body composition and, doing the movement patterns that we need to so that we can be prepped and prepared for spring practice. We get the opportunity, during that 7-week phase of winter conditioning to do a little bit of ball with our guys. So ever since signing day, we've been getting with the guys one day a week and being able to do some early installations of the schemes and doing some walkthroughs and things like that. So if you kind of think like when you hear of like the mini OTAs like after the draft in the NFL world, like we're kind of doing some of that and everything. And then as we transition here into phase 2, as we are about to start, in early March here with spring practice, that's where then kind of those levers, flip a little bit to where strength and conditioning, we're still going to lift and we're going to train 3 days a week, but now we're going to start doing actual football practice and get an opportunity to put pads on and, really dive into the X's and the O's and the techniques and the schemes and situational awareness. So through these next 15 practices and, the meeting time that we get with the guys, we want to have a great foundational understanding, again, about our schemes and, again, about the strengths and the weaknesses of our team and grow our situational understanding for all the different phases of the game, right? How a normal down and distance call is different than a third down call and how either one of those calls in the red zone is completely different than if it's, when we're backed up, right? And so that we can be a really smart football team in that regard. We'll come out of phase 2. The boys will finish strong in the classroom. They'll get a little bit of time off, and then we'll start summer conditioning for phase 3. And again, that's where strength and conditioning, takes the forefront. And here's really where our strength staff does a tremendous job and, earns their money by really getting the guys in peak physical shape so that we can go into training camp most game ready as a team from a physical standpoint, right? And then we get to immerse ourselves basically for the month of August as we build into the season, right, where it's pretty much all ball all the time, where strength and conditioning, again, it's never on the back burner, but, you're pretty much doing a football practice and immersed in football activities, day after day after day. So we got to balance that workload smart. But, by the time you put it all together through those first 4 phases, that's when, the community really gets excited and to everyone else, it's football season. And then by the time we get to the season, now we need to really obviously refine it, detail it, and then build out the week-to-week game plans to have, an elite season.
Have the spring practices almost become more valuable with the movement that we've discussed often, with how large these classes have become across college football, all the newcomers that come in? Are these 15 practices almost invaluable to a success of a football team?
Yeah, I think they've always been critical, but I think there's probably an even greater emphasis on them now. That's probably fair to say, especially when you've had, the turnover the way that we have within the quarterback room, right? So that you can get those guys the reps that they need at close to game speed as possible so that every single repetition then that the team or an individual gets in the summertime, right, it's got some purpose, it has some intent, and it has a better focus behind it because you've done such great work in the springtime to really know and understand, what it is you're looking for with each of the calls and how the concepts are supposed to fit together. So it just allows you, by doing each phase that you're in the right way, right? They all kind of scaffold and build off one another so that the next thing is even better than it could be. But, the 15 practices that we're about to start on are hugely important to our team, and we just got to take them truly one step at a time as we climb, this ladder to where we want to get to.
How valuable is it for you and your coaching staff? You've retained a lot of your staff, but there's changes as well. What is it like coming together as a staff and implementing some of what you'll do in the fall, in the spring?
Yeah, I mean, just as valuable, if not more valuable, right? That at the top of it all, that the leaders, the staff, the coaches are connected, that they have cohesion, right, and that they're aligned and unified around the same ideas and the same mindsets, and again, that everyone feels comfortable to, offer their suggestions and to challenge ideas in the right way so that the best idea, can come to the surface. So we get to do great work, and during this time too, just the rhythm and the cadence of the day allows you to be on the field for a day, really assess the tape, poke holes in the strengths or the weaknesses of a call, really refine it so that, through those dialogues, through those conversations, through that questioning of, who do we want doing this and why do we want them doing it that way and what the heck is it that we're actually trying to get done with this call? Everyone has a greater understanding and appreciation of how everything needs to get coached and where people are coming from and the experiences that they've had, to offer that insight so that we can be really connected as a staff so that everyone knows, again, just philosophically, like, hey, here's how we play, and let's not be in our silos, within each phase of the game, but how it's all married and matched together. I think it's critically important that the players see that from a cohesive staff, so that they're aligned as a group and as a team so that they can go forward and execute in between the white lines.
What was most important for you with your defensive staff? With some of the change you had, obviously now a new DC who's already here, and you add obviously Roy Manning as well to your staff. What was important to you when it came to the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, it was critically important to maintain the momentum that I think was created by the shift from going to, the 3-3-5 to the 4-2-5. Yeah. So having that expertise and that understanding, and then also, having a guy that has called it in the past and has done it at an elite level, because we have talent in place to where, I didn't want a guy who, was kind of doing some on-the-job training, so to speak, right? And so with Rob's background from having been here and understanding, how the transition was made, the implementation of the scheme last year, and really having obviously a behind-the-scenes look at the good, the bad, the ugly of everything that went down, right? I think that allowed for us to make, the necessary changes that we needed to within the scheme. There's also continuity within the staff, right? Just as important as just as much has been made about, hey, keeping the really, really good players together. We got some really, really good coaches. And so we were able to keep, the coaches connected and that cohesion in place because, again, like, no matter who it is that you're coaching, right, unless those kids truly know how much you care, like, they don't care what you know, right? And so having, that continuity of staff and the continuity of those relationships so that the kids truly know that the guys and the staff that's in the building care about them, you're not working through kind of that clinky and clunking of refining those relationships, right, and get to know one another. Like, we can continue to build upon the shared experiences that we've had. And so, Rob stepping up into that DC spot, it's been great. His energy is infectious, and, his knowledge and experience of being in that chair, I'm really excited to see where he takes us.
I remember last spring there was a lot of discussion about tempo, right, the manner in which you like to play offense. Now that you have a year under your belt, again, a lot of this roster is returning. There's newcomers as well, including at the quarterback position. How much of spring football is about kind of learning the cadence and the tempo of the way you want to do things?
Yeah, for sure. It's a ton of it, right? Yeah. And we can only go as fast as the quarterback who's driving it, and we can only go as fast as the big boys up front who are going to make it all go, right? And so there's been a lot of new pieces added in both those rooms, like we talked about last time with this class, right? With the trigger man and obviously the speed of communication, and then with the new bigs that are going to be up front, working cohesively together. So it's critical for us to, again, get that foundation in place, to have the understanding of just how it is, what we're doing, and again, the calls and just the language, right? It's like, for our listeners and viewers, it's like getting dropped in a new country, right? And for you to really enjoy that experience, you better be able to speak the language, right? And so just simply put, what we're calling things and how we talk so that we're all speaking the same way so that there's clear, clean communication is critical. And to get these reps, and accumulate these reps over time with spring ball, it's, again, invaluable opportunities for us to have.
What's the reps balancing act like from young to old, so to speak, within a roster during the spring period?
Yeah, well, fortunately for us, because of the way that we practice, like, there's a ton of reps for all to be had, right? I think that's one of the great advantages that we talk a lot about when it comes to, our recruitment and talent acquisition process, right? Like, you get good at something by doing it. And if you're in a huddle system where you're only getting, a minimal number of plays during a practice period of team, well, I mean, we'll have a a 12, 15-minute period, whether it's Skelly or it's team, and we're getting north of 40 reps in that time frame, right? And so the starters and the backups can't get all those reps. Like, everyone who's up and available to practice is going to get to share those reps and share that load, so everyone gets ample opportunity to develop and get better and make an impression, and show their teammates, most importantly, that, hey, you can trust me. Like, you need to play, call my number, and I'm going to make that happen for us. So it's been great, and again, it's been one of the major advantages, in every phase of our program, of the speed of development and the rate of development, because guys are doing it. I always kind of equate it to my children when they were learning how to ride a bike. Like, they can watch all the YouTube videos of other kids riding bikes they want, but if they want to get good at riding the bike, you got to jump on the bike and you got to go figure it out, right? And it's the same thing. Like, mental reps, they're critically important, but we all get good by doing. So let's go get some reps in.
Yeah, a little bit of the 10,000 hour theory. Like,
That's
you got to
right.
go out and do it. We'll talk more about this when we get closer to the showcase, but what kind of opportunity is that? I mean, for the program, for Aztec fans, for your players, when you get into Snapdragon Stadium in the spring, well before the start of a season, what do you hope to accomplish, and what type of opportunity is that for the program?
Yeah, want to create as close to a game day environment as possible there, right? I mean, there's a old saying in the coaching profession that some players, when the lights come on, they hardly know their name, right? Like, it's one thing to do it in practice, but now, hey, when those loved ones are in the stands or strangers are in the stands, even though, hey, you should have tunnel vision and it shouldn't matter, we all know, and we've all seen enough, guys step into the arena, whether it's a football arena or other venues, right, that the stimulus can impact them in a different way, right? So from selfishly, like, I always like to see how guys are different. Like, are you wearing the same swag that you wore on Tuesday's practice, or you got different wristbands on and different visors on because now people can see you, right? Like, are you about the right things when it comes to all that? For our fan base, I think it's an exciting time because it's going to be the first, public opportunity for them to see, these new guys, and to see our new members of our staff, and to see the way that this team has done such great work together, and how they've come together, and how they're going to execute at a high level this fall. So come out and see our beautiful stadium, and if you haven't, get your season tickets, and lock that in so you're with us in the fall for the great party that's going to happen at Snapdragon.
Ticket information, showcase information available right now at goaztecs.com. Sean, we're excited for the spring. We'll do it when we get closer to the showcase, and thanks for doing it.
Sounds good. Thanks, Sean.